Good evening. Welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, February 11. If you are watching live on Monday, February 11, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions about the goings-on. Our call-in number is 769-1677. Our next regular meeting is Monday, February 25 at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. But prior to that, this coming Tuesday night, February 19th, a week from tomorrow, we have the annual state-required tax assessment grievance night. That will take place on Tuesday, February 19 from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Clinton Street Center, which is on the corner of Wheeler and Clinton Street. We have a bunch of things on our agenda today, and I have a number of announcements to make, but I know that a number of people here in the audience are here for the matter that's listed on our agenda in oral communications, which is a petition from Benchmark Assisted Living for an amendment to the village's zoning code. I'm going to suggest at the outset that Benchmark is coming to us today with a formal proposal for a zoning change. We'll hear from them the nature of that application. We also received from them, and the entire board received in our packets this weekend, the backup materials associated with that, and Benchmark has made a number of changes to the plan that make it a bit different from what we all saw in the informal presentation. So I encourage everybody, obviously, to listen with care, and although we are happy, as we are always happy, to hear from anybody who wants to speak, I would encourage everybody to view this as an opportunity to hear what the formal proposal is, and then to digest it. The process will require multiple public sessions and multiple opportunities for everybody to be heard. So I'm inclined to think, having heard what we've already heard from some of you in the audience when we first met, that tonight may not be the most productive night to spend a lot of time going over the pros and cons of the plan. We certainly want to hear that. We will stay as long as is required to hear everybody's comments, but I would suggest that we wait for the formal process to begin after we've all had a chance to digest it. So you'll take that as you will, and I invite the people from Benchmark and David Steinmetz, their attorney, to make the presentation. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, are you folks going to stay up here, or are you coming down?
I think we'll go the other way so that everybody can see.
Hold it for a moment.
Poor Joe. Keeps getting moved around. You're okay there, Joe.
The only exercise I get.
All right, good.
Cooch at the very end, I'm going to flip it and then transition the other way.
Back here, okay. Mindy.
I'm sorry.
Mindy.
Well, it's something I just
No, no, I'm
want you to be
right
comfortable.
here.
Okay.
Bad back.
Chopped liver?
She has a bad back.
I'm beginning to wonder about this. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees, members of the public. My name is David Steinmetz from the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz. I'm here tonight representing Benchmark Senior Living from Wellesley, Massachusetts. We are very pleased to be back here tonight, as the mayor indicated, now in a more formal context. We had been here previously in a pre-submission capacity, meeting with your board. We also, as all of you know, met with the neighbors back in November, I believe it was, in connection with a proposed assisted living residential facility located on the Methodist Church property. With me this evening, Bill Cook, the Director of Project Management from Benchmark, whom you've all met and you will be seeing throughout the process. Anthony Guccione, part of the project engineering team from John Meyer Consulting, our architect, formerly known as Berry Rio Architects, now known as Mosley Architects. Steve Ruiz, not here this evening, though some of his work product is here, and we'll certainly be having Mosley participate as we go forward. Tonight, we are here to discuss an 87-unit proposed assisted living facility on about 3.5 to 4 acres of the northernmost portion of the church property. Benchmark, as I think you all know, is in contract to purchase this portion of the church property. They desire and very much are interested in pursuing this application. And the application, in essence, at least at this threshold stage, is a proposed rezoning. Currently, although assisted living is allowed here in Pleasantville in the RPO zone, this property is located in the RRR zone. We are not in the RPO zone, so we need to effectuate, in order to proceed, some type of a rezoning. What the mayor alluded to, hopefully all of you received a copy of our cover letter of February 7th, our petition for a rezoning, as well as a host of supporting materials that were prepared by our development team. And kind of in summary, we're suggesting that the village contemplate a floating zone that would allow for an assisted living residence of this nature, and we're going to talk more about it, to be developed on this property. The last time we were here, we spoke at some length about who Benchmark is, why they're here in Westchester County, in particular Pleasantville, what they see appealing about this particular property, the benefits to the community in terms of jobs, ratables, provision of services. We're really not going to go over and do all of that again. However, if any members of the trustees or your professional team have questions, we're happy to discuss that. We've presented that, and suffice it to say, Benchmark really is one of the preeminent providers of assisted living care in the Northeast, and is quite interested in entering the Pleasantville market. Tonight, we really wanted to concentrate on some of the changes that we've made since we were last here. As I indicated, we met with you, we met with the community, and we heard a number of substantive, technical, and other types of comments, some of which, in this early stage, we were able to address quite rapidly. And there are some conceptual materials that we're going to be providing. We don't have any kind of final site plan. Literally, tonight is, as far as we're concerned, the formal kickoff of the process in front of the trustees. We're going to be in front of you reviewing the proposed rezoning. We're going to be in front of your planning commission, both with regard to the rezoning, the subdivision of the property to facilitate this development, as well as the site plan. All of that is going to be analyzed under the statutory umbrella of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQRA. So like any land use process here in New York State, we're governed by SEQRA, and one of the procedural things that we want to try to accomplish this evening with your board is to determine who is going to serve as the lead agency under the SEQRA process. We're going to also cover a host of legal issues throughout this process. One of the first legal issues that we heard from the village, right at kind of the outset, was whether or not rezoning this particular property for this particular use would constitute unlawful spot zoning. It was a very important question that your village raised right out of the box. You wanted us to confront, and we researched the issue. We researched it, we reviewed a number of important materials, we prepared a memorandum to your village special counsel, and we concluded that not only have the courts determined that this would not be an unlawful zoning exercise or constitute unlawful spot zoning, but the courts have actually recently acknowledged the importance of senior housing, the need for assisted living in a well-developed, well-ordered plan, the fact that it indeed is a transitional use between residential, commercial, multifamily uses. In fact, some of the court opinions talk about how assisted...
Wasn't me.
I didn't coordinate that into my remarks. The sound effects are for the next meeting. The assisted living is, in fact, deemed to be, by the courts, consistent with single and multifamily housing. Our job throughout this process is going to be to unveil before you and work with you and your professional consultants to analyze and present the impacts, the benefits, the things that need mitigation, and to address those. I'm going to leave it to your village special counsel to tell you what he concluded from the memorandum that we supplied. You've heard our position. We believe that New York State law is quite clear, and there's nothing inappropriate, improper, or even inconsistent with your comprehensive plan, which now actually calls for a multitude of housing types and senior housing. So tonight, we're really here to do two things. We're not asking you to make a decision on anything substantive. We're here tonight really to review two procedural questions for my purposes. One is who will be the lead agency for purposes of conducting this environmental review, and can you refer this to your planning commission, which is required by your own local code, so that we can begin the process and tie the planning commission into this as well. We've submitted to you an environmental assessment form, a traffic study, conceptual site plan, some conceptual architecturals, and as the mayor alluded to earlier, there have been some changes to the project. Anthony Guccione is going to talk through some of them in greater detail and specifics. Suffice it to say that one of the primary concerns that we heard when we met with the neighbors, and I'm referring to the residential community immediately behind us on Maple Hill Road, was concern about the intersection of New York State Route 117 and Maple Hill, and the possibility of increased traffic along Maple Hill Road, the intersection, concerns about the intersection, sight distance, turning times, queuing. And we actually got a question from the community at the public neighbors meeting about our ability to interconnect to Route 117. At that meeting, Mr. Guccione and I actually gave a conservative, some might say pessimistic answer about our ability to interconnect to Route 117. We told the community we would look into it. We said we would investigate it with New York State DOT. We said we would analyze site distance both to the north and south. And I am extremely pleased as I turn the mic over to Anthony Guccione to tell you that we got a very favorable initial response from DOT, and we are very happily showing a primary access point into the site from New York State Route 117. So I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to walk through the site plan, the grading, and some of the changes that we've made. And then Bill Cook is going to walk us through some of the architectural ideas and vernacular that we've tried to incorporate.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Guccione. I'm a registered landscape architect with the firm John Meyer Consulting. We are the site and traffic engineers, the landscape architects, the planners, and the land surveyors for the project. And as Mr. Steinmetz had said, I'd like to take you through just some of the changes that have been made to the plan since we were last before your board. The first changes Mr. Steinmetz began to speak about is access. When we came back before the board last time, the original access was from the parking lot of the facility, connecting here to the church parking lot, through the church parking lot, which provided access through Maple Hill Road. We met with some of the residents of the Maple Hill Road community, and they voiced their concerns about the access connecting to Maple Hill Road. So as a result, we met with the Department of Transportation and discussed a connection point here along Bedford Road. And we were able to revise the plan to depict that connection, and the DOT did give us favorable feedback on that connection. So now the connection would be proposed here at this location. We took a look at the site distance, and we do meet all the New York State DOT's requirements for site distance at that location.
And that would be an entrance and an exit?
That would be an entrance and an exit with no connection to the church parking lot. Now, another benefit and a result of making this connection here at Bedford Road is that this is a lower elevation than the church parking lot was. So to get our driveway into the front of the building, it was necessary to sink the building lower into the site. That has a benefit, if you look at this section, of actually taking the finished floor elevation of the first level of the building and depressing it about 6 to 8 feet from where it was before. We're proposing a 4-story building facing Bedford Road. The building is a 4-story elevation, but facing the rear towards the residential side of the site, the building is actually 3 stories. There's a partially unexcavated level to the lower level of the building, and what that does is the building acts sort of as a retaining wall and provides a much smaller scale elevation at the rear. And we've proposed a series of 2 retaining walls here, which will make up the grade change across the site. So that really nestles the building down lower into the site and kind of relieves some of the mass of the building and makes it seem shorter. The site will be heavily landscaped. We are making an effort to save the trees around the perimeter of the property. There are some significant trees that will be saved, and then we would propose to add additional buffer plantings to supplement those existing buffers that exist at the site today.
Has a landscape plan been generated yet?
There has not been a formal landscape plan. What we do have is just a depiction of how it may be handled with some trees, buffer plantings. The site will be very extensively landscaped. For these types of facilities, of which we designed quite a few, landscaping is a very important component. They find that studies have been done for the elderly and the frail that would be living here, and they find that they really benefit from planting materials that have different textural, color, and fragrances that really help to provide a positive situation and feedback for them as they go through their later years in life, and really a benefit to their health. And that really sort of explains the changes we've made since we were last before you. I think Mr. Cook will explain the building a little bit and be happy to answer any questions.
Could I just ask a question before you
Sure.
go there? Is the existing church parking lot, as you show it, has been cut
Yes.
back?
Yeah, the parking lot, the drop-off for the church came over here and came around here. We lost about 5 parking spaces. We eliminated right here on the bottom side, and the drop-off we reconfigured to come right around here. They have a drop-off section through here, and then they exit back out of the parking lot here. So it's a minor modification there where the driveway is.
There are 2 different tax lots involved here.
Good evening again. My name, as David had said, is Bill Cook. I'm Director of Project Management with Benchmark, and I'd like to echo his sentiments that it's very nice to be back. I do apologize. It seems like every time I'm here, there's like some major weather thing going on, so I apologize for that. But we'll get it all out of the way up front. I'm just going to speak a little bit to, I'll call it somewhat architecturally, but it's essentially more of a rendering. And this is very conceptual to the building. And what we've had is our architects, haven't been here tonight, but they have done some extensive research in the area, researching the local vernacular. Many of these, I'm sure, these pictures are very familiar to many of you. And what we've kind of done is we've kind of gone through and looked at the pieces and the parts of that and seen how we could try to relate them into what would be a copacetic building to coexist with these. And what we can see here, what I see here as I look through, there's the gables that pop out throughout, so we try to address that here. We have, some bump outs, setbacks, relief, where we tried something along those lines. And also the front porch, which can't be ignored. It's pretty much everywhere. So kind of can't really see it in the back here. But it would be a front porch around the front of the building as well. This would be a portico, somewhat covered over, so as people are being dropped off, it would be, for bad weather as it may be covered over and have kind of a nice area to enter into the building.
And Bill, just for geographic location, where you need to put that on the bottom. Just drop
There we
it on the
go.
floor. So we're right in this area in here.
So this would be essentially kind of out from here, looking at the front of the building. This little area here is our portico. And then looking over here.
Okay.
So, and then I'd also just like to echo again with Mr. Guccione had said about the building. What we have done since the last time is we did recess the building further down into the site.
Could you just lift that up while you're showing, so she can
Yep.
get that on the camera? Absolutely.
Gotcha. Just again, before our previous, I think, finished floor elevation was about here, so with the 4 stories, it was conceivably higher. So we have lowered it down, and that was actually kind of a nice benefit in conjunction with the access into Bedford Road. If you think of, you have your access point here, and you have to get from point A to point B, and there's restrictions as to how much grade you have to get there, it kind of lends you to lowering it down and basically connecting the points. Something else we have, and again, this is all conceptual, but we have, I think Mr. Mayor had addressed the loss of some parking here. We are showing some parking over here, and we are currently also showing a connection via a sidewalk to the church, so that there could be, we could work out some kind of agreement, I'm sure, with the church that, for those times when it's not used or those spaces are available, they could be used by the church. So it seems like a good use between the two, especially considering that their high times are probably not going to align with ours.
So, that's it.
Are the two traffic flows completely separate? That is, can you enter off Maple Hill and get to your site?
As of now, the design does not show that. We have the ability to, re-examine that. The original design did show the interconnection of the church parking lot into our site. We thought it would be prudent to explore this. We were really trying to address the sensitivity and the concerns of the neighbors, and the site, the site does work in this fashion. As Bill was just alluding to, the minute we heard that we were potentially causing a loss of a few spaces at the church, we wanted to make sure that there would be some capability of shared parking, and we see no reason why that would not work. As we go through the process, we're going to share with you some of the data. In fact, Benchmark's specifications for parking are somewhat higher than many of the other assisted living providers, and in fact even the Institute of Traffic Engineers requirements. So we think there will be more than an adequate amount of parking, and that's something that we'll have to establish empirically, which is a perfect transition to what have we given you, what do we still need to give you. We gave you a traffic study. Our traffic engineer, Richard Pearson, could not be here this evening. He absolutely wants to be here and present his traffic, parking, and accident data analysis. We're going to walk the lead agency, whether it's you or the Planning Commission, but we certainly want to walk the Board of Trustees through that traffic report so that you all understand the data. We've already covered it. We've submitted it to you in writing, but we really think a presentation would be appropriate for the board and for the public. So that needs to take place. We still need to generate for you a number of additional supplemental studies. We're in the process of completing our fiscal analysis. We had indicated to you that we would do that. Benchmark commissioned a study which is being finalized that will demonstrate what we best believe will be the tax generation for the village, the town, the county, projected sales tax, and it goes into a pretty extensive analysis of jobs and overall direct and indirect community benefits. That will be submitted. John Meyer Consulting will be completing its stormwater report and analysis. Obviously, the site currently, the portion of the site that we're talking about developing is undeveloped, natural, and wooded. We're going to be creating a paved parking area and a building, and it's clearly incumbent upon our development team to make sure that there's no adverse impact associated with runoff. That's something that's going to be completed. You'll recall we got at the last meeting concerns articulated by, again, the board and some of our residential neighbors to the east about views. We have already conducted some preliminary visual analysis. We've taken a number of photographs. They're now being synthesized and worked in such a fashion that we can generate for you some imaging of what it ultimately will look like. We have not completed that. That will be forthcoming most likely within the next submission, within probably the next 30 days or so. We have done the best that we can, correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, to take photographs along our eastern property line. I don't believe our surveyor went off-site in any way. So what we did was try to take photographs as best we could from our property without trespassing on anyone else's property. But we're going to be taking a number of different vantage points looking at the building from both Bedford Road and elsewhere. So that's got to be completed. We're also going to be doing, I mentioned the fiscal analysis. There will be some market data studies that we'll be sharing with you to establish why we're here. Why are we going through this process? We're going through this process because not only Westchester County, but even my own client has amassed a tremendous amount of empirical data that shows the need right here in Pleasantville and the surrounding area for this type of use. So we're looking forward to working with your professional staff on drafting a floating zone. We have not submitted the details of that floating zone to you at this point in time because we think it would be inappropriate to do so without getting some feedback from the trustees. We have indicated in our legal memorandum why we think a floating zone would be appropriate, defensible, and consistent with your comprehensive plan. One of the things that we're going to at least offer up in the form of a suggestion, were you to pursue a floating zone, we would recommend that a floating zone have parameters such as a minimum lot size, so not any lot in the village would be capable of potentially having an assisted living facility, that a facility for the floating zone have direct access to a state or county highway, again, ruling out a number of properties as well, and then have a specific proximity to retail, shopping, et cetera. When we studied your comprehensive plan not only talked about senior housing, assisted living, senior housing, this type of provision of services, but also talked about the need for proximity to the rest of the village. We will be identifying that and laying that out. And all of the parameters that I've just articulated are parameters that we find when we study these types of ordinances elsewhere are fairly commonplace. When you have a floating zone, you don't want that floating zone to be capable of being layered on to any particular property in the village. It should be layered on, if at all, to those properties that have the criteria. State and county highway is a very important thing. For a facility like this, you want to know you have ready, easy, accessible emergency and visitor access to the site. And again, as a result of the suggestions we received from the Maple Hill neighborhood, we think we've got a concept that will allow it to come in without even utilizing the road. You should know, however, that the traffic study that was done, and that Mr. Pearson will talk about at the next meeting, indicated that even with the traffic generated by this facility, that there would not have been a change in the level of service at that intersection or the most proximate significant intersection, which I guess the signalized intersection to the south is Manville and Bedford Road. Is that the closest signalized intersection?
Broadway.
Broadway, I'm sorry, right. In sum, we think this is, and my client thinks this is a great location, think that this is a great project and a great opportunity for the community, for the village, and for Benchmark. We look forward to working cooperatively with the neighbors, with the community, and with your board as we go through the process. Again, all we're asking for tonight, no substantive decision. In fact, tonight is not a public hearing. There has been no public hearing. And as the mayor indicated, obviously there will be a public hearing as mandated by New York State Village law. Tonight is not that public hearing. All we are asking for this evening are two procedural steps: determination of whether you intend to designate yourselves as the lead agency under SECRA, and a referral to the Planning Commission so that we can begin the process in front of your Planning Commission. With that, our presentation is completed. We wanted to keep it as tight and short as possible, but we're here, as the mayor indicated, we're here to answer any questions that you've got or that you want us to answer that we can answer tonight.
Is it yet clear whether the existing retaining wall along that site is satisfactory, or would that need to be the one along?
The one along the western front, along the frontage. Can you answer that?
We have not formally analyzed it, but just taking a quick look, the intention is to maintain that existing retaining wall and provide another retaining wall at least about 15 feet back into the site to make up the rest of the grade change. So the idea is to stay far enough back from that existing retaining wall that we would not impact it.
So at least as it stands right now, that streetscape would remain the same?
Exactly.
And could you also, whoever's the right person, just comment so the people who are watching have a little better sense of the dimensions in that section, the setback from the edge of the property line, and describe a little bit how that line of sight in the section view at the top goes. Okay? Just schematic.
That's you. Right. Can you go the other way so I can see? Sure. So the distance from the existing wall is right basically along the edge of the pavement. From that wall, the tightest spot from the existing wall to our proposed wall is about 15 to 20 feet. In most cases, over here, say it's about 30 feet from the existing wall to the proposed retaining wall.
And then how far back to the building?
And how far back to the building is about 60 feet from the wall to the building. Okay. So looking at that section, you got your existing wall, you got your 20 to 30 feet, you got the proposed wall, which would have a fence on top of it, and then you've got about 60 feet to the building.
And so that middle line is the view from the drive aisle of Bedford?
That's exactly it. That's looking, from it being in a car, looking out the window, looking up at the building. They're showing the top of the proposed wall would be cut off. You just see a little top of the building, but again, there would be, substantial trees that would screen above and beyond.
Let's underscore that for a moment. I tried to cover that earlier when Anthony was speaking, but we have not submitted a landscaping plan at this point in time. It would be highly unusual to generate a full-blown landscape plan in the initial submission packet. We're just right now working on a concept design. However, clearly, we will, as we go through the process, we will be providing additional information on the landscaping, and I believe Benchmark fully intends to landscape the site really for two purposes. One, we know we have residential neighbors that we want to address, appease, and attempt to buffer. Likewise, we're about to construct an important building that, unlike other types of development, this is a developer that develops, owns, and stays here in perpetuity. So they want it to look good. They're going to keep it looking good. That's the only way that they can ensure the success of their product. And, do your homework, as I'm sure you will. They have a very successful product out there and have a number of communities that they have been very successful in with both their aesthetics as well as their provision of services.
And the idea, when we do get into the landscaping plan, would not be so much to hide the building as to complement and improve the aesthetics of the area by complementing the architecture of the building and not so much, hide it from the surrounding street. It would be buffering to the rear, adjacent to the residence, but...
Could you just give us a sense for the dimensions from the back of the building to the lot line? Sure. In the back?
This is from the back of the building here to the property line plus 70 feet.
Okay. Joel, did you have questions? No. Okay. All right, I thank you for that. I don't know if I had a chance to talk to you today, but is it possible to give us the submission material you provided that we have in our packets in PDF form?
Absolutely.
So that we can then post that on our website. That will obviously be of interest to everybody, and we want to make sure that you all who are interested in the project, pro or con, have an opportunity to see the same materials we're looking at and download it and review all of that in whatever detail you want. So
We're happy to do that. We'll have that to you in the morning.
okay, and then we'll put it up on our website, which is pleasantville-ny.gov. We do intend tonight to declare our intent to have the village board serve as lead agency, and we have a resolution to refer this project to the planning commission. We just want to underscore what Mr. Steinmetz has already said. What we're looking at here is schematic in nature, and it will continue to be schematic in nature through the process of the review for the purpose of zoning, which is the responsibility of this board. When it goes to the planning commission, and Russ Klein, our chair of our planning commission, is here. We invited him to get a preview as well. Should the project achieve a zoning change, the details of the site plan would be worked out through an exhaustive process with the planning commission. And so there will be a series of public opportunities to weigh in on on whatever aspects any of you want to comment on in the course of our review of the zoning. Our first effort will be to refer this proposal to the Planning Commission for their comment, as well as to a number of other involved agencies. Am I correct, Joel?
Correct, absolutely.
So that we get back those comments preliminarily. And then we have quite a bit to digest on our side of the table, and you guys, as you has already reported, have some further work to do. So there will be plenty of questions arising and plenty of opportunity for us to have formal discussions where the comments anyone from the public wants to make can be added to the record. We already have some written comments that we've received via email or otherwise that we've added to the record. And we also encourage whatever informal comments you want to make over time. If anybody has something they would like to say tonight that feels like it adds something to the picture now, I'm happy to entertain that. But I do think that probably the best direction for all of us is for us to digest what we've heard.
Maple Hill.
Okay, you need to come to the mic here.
please.
Yep.
My name is Yuri Paraschuk. I live in a property abutting Maple Hill, and I'm amazed at a couple of things on this diagram. One is the actual space that this building occupies. I did some rough calculations, and based upon the number of patients or people who are staying in this building, it seems to me you've got at least twice the floor space. The second thing is, I don't understand how this building can occupy almost half of the total lot size. How is that possible? I thought the zoning didn't allow this larger percentage of the area to be occupied by a building.
Those will all be matters that get discussed in
Maybe
detail
so,
in the
maybe
course
so.
of the
But you see,
discussion.
Mayor, one of the things that happens here is a momentum starts, people get a mental image, and then all of a sudden it becomes okay. I want to avoid that. I want to make the very clear point that at this moment, a PUD is much larger an area than this. I think it's very noble that they will provide us guidance as to how we should have a floating zone. Thank you. But on this case, I think this area is occupied by too much of the building, there's too much floor space, and based upon my calculations, they'll be making somewhere around $3.5 million of profit a year.
Okay,
Thank
so,
you.
all right. Yes?
Andrew Layden, I live at 44 Summit Place. It's above Maple Hill. We would be looking, my backyard would look directly down upon to this property. And I'd just like to know if the traffic study was not just including Maple Hill entrance, but also the entrance from the housing development over there, and the street on the other side, Highview Terrace, and Brentwood Drive as well, to see the impact on traffic and entrance and exits at those locations. I know coming off Highview is particularly difficult during commute times.
We'll put the document that they've given us up on the website, and you can all download it and read it. My advice on that subject would be read it, and that will no doubt raise detailed questions, and we'll invite you to come forward with them.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Thank you.
My name is Dan Blaney, 50 Maple Hill Road. I overlook from the other side of the street down upon the proposed building. I have a couple of comments. I guess we all know that this is zoning triple R, which here in Pleasantville is the utmost respect for residential. You have to go down, I think there's 10 residential zoning categories. So this would be a movement of 8 categories, which is not an insignificant jump. It's a big jump. And talking about one of the issues was that I guess there's been some legal issues that have been going on, saying that this is not uncommon nationwide. Well, if we look at the building code, this will be an institutional classification, which is similar to a halfway house or.
well, can I just, I respect your
Yeah,
concerns.
no, I understand, okay.
But to relate this to a halfway house is just kind of an incendiary comment, so let's try to avoid those sort of
Wow.
suggestions. I
Okay,
mean, this
maybe
is
you're
not a
speaking
drug
above me.
treatment agency. This is a senior assisted living thing. I don't say
No, I
that to
understand that.
suggest that we're in favor of it, but I just think if we all avoid those kinds of associations, it'll be a fairer, more reasonable discussion.
Okay, I think it's fair to point it out. Okay. I think everybody appreciates that. So now, of course, we have the similar instances where, we're talking about there's going to be a huge cafeteria there. We have enough hawks flying around looking for vermin and mice, and this is just going to bring everything around. The whole neighborhood is going to have a multitude of these problems. And the traffic study, I guess you said they were going to bring it up. Have you had conversations with Benchmark in between the last?
We received their
meetings?
material on Friday, whatever day it came.
Thursday.
Yes,
Good.
right. It was
Okay.
included in the board members' packets on Friday, and we'll put it up on the website tomorrow, so
Okay.
we're all in the same place.
And so I guess we're all concerned with the stormwater management. They're going to put a stormwater pond somewhere. We're going to be thinking about those things when we go through with the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to cut anybody off. I just think that we're going to have a more reasoned discussion of the pros and the cons, and that will be helpful to all of us, including those of us who ultimately have to make a decision when we have looked at what's been provided. I know a lot of you have these concerns, and I think all of us respect that, but I think we're also confronted with a project that is worthy of our review, and we are presented with a series of consultants who are respected professionals who are obviously working on behalf of their client. Everybody gets that. But as I said the last time we met, and I will continue to say, everybody in this process deserves a fair shake. That is to say, if we should end up saying no to Benchmark, or if we should end up saying yes to Benchmark, whoever is the party whose view did not prevail ought to leave this room feeling as though they were heard, that they were understood, and that they understand why the decision went the way it went. And that will be our highest goal in this process. Can't guarantee that everybody will feel that way, but we are intending to do a detailed review of this and to do it in the most transparent possible way. So,
Mr. Mayor, let me ask
you need to come to the...
Thank you. Question.
You need to come to them. It doesn't help that people are watching at home, and there are a lot of them, not to be able to hear that part of it.
Yes, hello, my name is John Strobel. I live on Maple Hill. I'd like to know, how long does this process normally take before a decision is made?
That's hard to say. I mean, the referral process alone, takes 30, 45 days, something like that?
That's the initial step of the referral process, but this is a lengthy process, going through the environmental review process, going through a possible rezoning, a possible subdivision, a possible site plan. You're talking about, I would say, at least a full year, if not more.
And add to that each step of that process, whenever, for example, a public hearing is required, there's a required advance notice of 30 days in advance of that, so that it takes a while, and there are aspects of that that are frustrating for everybody, but there are aspects of that that are good for everybody, because first off, it means everybody on all sides of the issue has a chance to weigh in over a good long period of time, and if there are ways to improve the project, or depending on your view, ways to torpedo it, you'll have plenty of time to think of them.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
all right. Anybody else? All right, so I thank you for that, and I thank you for keeping your comments brief, simply because we'll be spending lots of time together collectively, and we will look forward to that discussion. You guys can get us those PDFs tomorrow. That would be great. Patty, is it realistic to put them up tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay. So at some point tomorrow, at pleasantville-ny.gov, you'll be able to download the same documents that we all received, including the site plan and the traffic study and all of the above. And in the course of that, I would suggest that whose email is the best to use for any comments or questions that...
Either Judy's or mine, first initial, last name, so P. Dwyer at pleasantville-ny.gov or J. Weintraub at pleasantville-ny.gov.
I mean, those comments will come to all of us on the board as well. It's just helpful that the village office become the sort of clearinghouse of that, because any comments you all want to make that you want to be part of the record are best handled in that way. So we will continue with all of that. So as I mentioned, we have a resolution.
Could I, Mayor, just ask Ms. Steinmetz one question? Is that schematic site plan submitted to the board? Because I don't have it in my packet, so...
You have it in the black and white. You should have it folded up.
All right, well, as long as the board has it, because when we send out the environmental assessment form and the notice, there should be an 8x11 schematic
Tomorrow we can go over
plan.
and make sure you've got everything you should. Tonight, as a result of what Anthony gave you, you should have copies of everything.
Okay.
And I'm told for certain,
All right.
we filed with Patty and Judy, I think, 12 or 15 sets of this.
I'll count. I don't know, they
Whatever
came in
you
very
ask.
late, just before the storm. We didn't, we
came in by
have.
toboggan.
Yes, they did.
All right.
I just want to make sure, I mean, my laptop has a lot of aerials with superimposed, but it does not have the site plan. Okay. This? Yeah. We need an 8.5 by 11. Yeah, okay.
All right, great. So we much appreciate that. Thank you for this presentation, and I want to thank you also for having made that informal presentation a couple of months ago, because having nothing to do with how we will ultimately feel about this, I certainly feel as though you have evidenced interest in addressing the concerns that came to the fore, and that is appreciated. I'm sure, as you know, that's not always seen. So, as Joel mentioned, it's an extended process to go through the zoning change and the subdivision idea, and assuming that were to result in a zoning change, there would be another extended process at Russ's Planning Commission for the details of the site review. So lots of stuff in the offing. So I thank you for that. I appreciate that, and we will endeavor on behalf of everybody to do this as quickly as we can, and as reasonably as we can, and as inclusively as we can. So,
All right, Mr. Mayor, you know there are 2 resolutions you need to adopt tonight.
Yes.
Those, yeah.
So we have added those 2 resolutions to our agenda. They are number 35 and number 36. 35 is a notice of the village board's intent to serve as lead agency, and 36 is the resolution referring the proposal to the
We'll deal with that later.
to the
in the second
agencies.
part of your meeting.
Right.
That's all
Yes, we will.
I actually have one procedural question when we come to the microphone.
I guess this is largely for Joel. Are you also going to simultaneously do a GML referral to the county?
Well, we're going to refer the environmental assessment form to the county, but it's premature now. You don't even have a zoning text.
Okay, we're going to wait for the zoning
prepared
text
yet.
on that.
You don't really have a site plan, so there'll be an initial referral just on the seeker
Just on the lead
issue,
agency.
but not on the zoning or the
Okay.
land use issues. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Again soon.
Appreciate it. So we will now return to the balance of our meeting. Any comments from the public on any other subject? Anybody here on? As is often the case, we only get an audience for one issue. You just don't want to hear about the resolutions. All right. All right, fine. We'll have a brief break, switch tapes. To those in the television audience, we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to our meeting. We had a brief break to change the tape, and while the audience who was here for the Benchmark Senior Living proposal filed out. So, had a number of announcements to make, but the discussion we've just had about the application for Benchmark Senior Living on the Methodist Church site reminds me to report to all of you what a lot of you already know, and that is that Henkel, the new owner of the former MLA property on Marble Avenue, is made enormous progress in demolishing the building. It is mostly gone. Originally, they had a proposal to raise the differing roofs to a common height. That turned out to be technically difficult, and so they are knocking down the building and will rebuild on the same footprint, on the same slab. So great progress going on there. It's exciting to see. It has been a very long time coming, and I think all of us are excited not only to see the progress, but also to welcome Henkel as a linchpin of our commercial base. A lot of you are also aware that there is another project that came to us a month or so ago in a formal application, and that was from Toll Brothers, a developer of residential housing, which proposes to build townhouse-style homes that are in single-family home ownership format, not condominiums, at what's come to be known as the former Baker property site, which is on Washington Avenue. Those 2 low office buildings on the uphill side, adjacent to Foxwood on the other side of the hill. So we accepted an application from them for a zoning change to redevelop that site, and there will be a review similar to the one we have just discussed right now for Benchmark going on for Toll Brothers. We referred that to our Planning Commission as well as to a number of other involved agencies. So regardless of anybody's position on any of the aforementioned projects, it's exciting news for the Village of Pleasantville that there is this much development interest in our community and this much confidence in the economy and also the residential market in the case of the Toll project. So we will keep you up to date on all that stuff, and we'll post materials on the website at pleasantville-ny.gov as soon as they are received, so that anybody who wants to download them and look at them in detail can do so. I just want to zip through a few other quick announcements and then comment on my activities of today. We've set a date for the Pleasantville Music Festival. That's going to be Saturday, July 13, same as it's always been, the second Saturday in July. So get out your calendars for the Pleasantville Music Festival on Saturday, July 13. You may recall a couple of weeks ago we heard from the fire department about the date of the fire department parade. That's Friday, May 31. So while you have your calendar out, mark that too. Two great events in the village of Pleasantville. Mindy, our farm market's going great guns.
Yes, it was unfortunately canceled this weekend, obviously, the snow, so, we'll be back in full swing next week, barring no other storms.
So that's the indoor farm market for the winter in the Pleasantville Middle School cafeteria. That's from 9 to 1 on Saturday mornings, except on days when there's a blizzard. So it's been in a great event, getting great attendance, and people, I think, have been very happy with what they found there. I don't know if I mentioned the last time, but I want to be sure to mention that the Westchester Table Tennis Center, which is a project that Will Shorts, Pleasantville resident and crossword puzzle editor extraordinaire, established over on Tompkins Avenue, has been honored by receiving the opportunity to host the North American Championships. That's going to be taking place in April. So some of the best table tennis players in North America are going to be competing for the North American Championship right here in Pleasantville, New York. So that's going to be a great event, and I think there will be some spectator opportunities. So I'm sure you will hear more about that as the day approaches. Really an exciting thing for all of us. Remind you.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but did you say the Fireman's Parade was the 31st, right?
Friday, May 31.
I thought you said June for some reason.
No.
It stuck in my
Sorry,
head, but I
Friday, May 31.
remembered it being the end of May.
We have been distributing the new recycling bins that have PleasantvilleRecycles.org on their side and are a little bigger than the old ones. Patty, have we completed that project?
We have.
All right.
Everybody should have a new bin.
Everybody should have a new recycling bin.
Have you all gotten a bin?
I got my bin.
Okay, good.
And
You didn't get a bin yet?
so our recycling committee has done a great job in
Not that he knows of. I'm sure there's a bin that you just have not seen.
assisting in getting that word out.
Now, can I just, I thought I remembered that was supposed to be through a grant or a,
Half of it was paid for by a grant. We had to match the grant.
okay.
So
that
you
was a
have,
magic grant, okay.
you have up to $10,000 from the DEC available.
Because I saw a bill in our registry.
Yeah, we have to pay the whole and then get
We have
reimbursed.
to pay the whole and get rid, okay,
Right.
thank you. That's,
That's right, there's about $19,000
yes,
bill on
yeah,
the bill
yeah, it was
list.
a little nerve-wracking when I saw that. Okay.
Reminding everybody that the rec department, which had been housed here on the third floor, has moved to their new rec center in the former ambulance corps building adjacent to Farrows Field on Marble Avenue. So any activity you have with the rec office takes place down there, and you should come on down and visit. We have a nice new space and new opportunities for programs, and you will start to see great things coming out of the new rec center. All kinds of snow this weekend, and people have been having a good time at the country club sledding, and we encourage them to do that. But I ask, as we have to do every year, for everybody to be careful and respectful. We have established some snow fencing up at the country club, which is intended to protect the fragile greens and sand traps. If there are fences there, they're there for a reason. Nobody's trying to be arbitrary. Please leave the fences there, and please don't knock them down. If they're around something, it's because we ask that you not sled there. In addition, recognize that this is a great Pleasantville tradition, and one that was protected in the site plan approval for the country club when it was established 20 or so years ago. But we are also guests on private property when we're doing it, and everybody needs to be careful and respectful of the fact that this is a public activity that's permitted on private property. So I am sorry to report that we've had a little bit of trouble so far, and are hoping not to have much more. So everybody should have a great time, but just be respectful. I spent yesterday and today in Albany at the meeting of the New York Conference of Mayors, and have lots to report about that, and I think I will probably save that for another day, so that we don't run too long here. But there are certainly a lot of things going on in Albany that are of interest to the Village of Pleasantville, and a few things that may have a near-term impact on us in terms of our budget, and certainly a couple of things that will present some options for us to weigh. But it was a very useful exchange, and an opportunity also to exchange thoughts with mayors from other communities, both around Westchester and around the state, so I'll have more to say on that soon. I also participated in a brief press conference in Albany that was a subset of the NICOM group, which are the mayors who had signed as members of the Mayors Against Illegal Guns. We had a brief press conference aiming to focus on those issues, led by the mayor of Schenectady. One of the things that is an important takeaway on that is that I would encourage everybody to take a look at the Fix Gun Check Act, which has been presented in the House of Representatives and is a simple and very commonsensical step, at least in my view, something that ought to be passed quickly. What it simply says is that people ought not to be able to buy a gun without a background check. At the moment, anybody who is already on a prohibited buyer list, which can include convicted felons or people who have been adjudged by a court to be a prohibited buyer of guns, are able to buy guns without a background check through mainstream sources on the internet and at gun shows. Lots of talk about the fact that criminals obviously are not going to subject themselves to background checks, and nobody's arguing that they would, but this is certainly a step that could be taken that would make us all a notch safer, and so I encourage you to take a look at that, and if you have opinions on it, to comment to your representative. Anybody else have anything else after I have used up all the oxygen in the room here?
Nothing, except we're used to it here.
All right. With that, we'll go to our resolutions.
No, that's not.
Do we need to open the public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're absolutely right. The next item in our agenda is a public hearing. Is there a motion to open a public hearing on the local law amending Chapter 166 taxation, Section 166-28, continuation of collection of property taxes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The public hearing is opening. It is easy to see why the audience has fled.
I say no taxes.
No collection
No,
whatsoever.
no collection.
Very good.
Patty, you want to describe the background to this?
I'd be happy to. We have options under real property tax law as to the methods we would like to use to institute foreclosure proceedings or delinquent tax collection proceedings. And the village has been using a process known as tax lien sales for quite some time. We also have, on occasion, with commercial interests, been pursuing foreclosure proceedings. And what our council advises and what our treasurer advises as well is that we forego tax lien sales and we follow real property tax law with respect to foreclosure proceedings going forward, which would require ample notice to the property owner and provide a more efficient way for us to administer delinquent taxes. With respect to tax lien sales, essentially what happens is that if a person is delinquent in a tax bill, even if it's just one particular portion of a bill, let's say 1/2 of a certain tax, we would be compelled to sell that lien, and we would sell that to a third party, and that person then would hold that lien and collect interest upon that lien whenever they would foreclose on that for a judgment. It gets very complicated for people in those situations, knowing that their liens were sold. They never really have control over the process once it leaves us. And we believe that it's just, it's more transparent and it's easier for property owners to follow foreclosure proceedings when a municipality acts instead of a third party.
Further, we gain the interest on the delinquent taxes, ultimately.
We would,
Right.
yes. That is correct. So it's administrative.
Although, just to
more
be
than-
clear, they always have control over the process. That is, they can pay their taxes.
Well,
in which
yes,
ca-
I
in
mean,
which
that's the
case the lien
difference.
goes away.
That is true. They-
So,
well,
to represent
they could push this
that
bill,
somehow we're
yes.
trying to coddle or that we need to put into place something to protect them from what they're
Well, this
legally
doesn't-
obligated to do in the first place
Yeah,
is,
yeah, that wasn't, if
No,
if
I
it came
agree- I
across that way,
understand.
I'm sorry it did, because there was really no way to protect people with delinquent
Correct.
taxes. We have an obligation to collect, so this is just another
Correct.
way of
That-
doing it that presents us with, you know, more assurances that it's done
right.
in an efficient way.
Yeah, it doesn't protect them, though, from, in
not
any
at
way,
all.
from
No.
what they ultimately have the responsibility to see
Quite
through.
frankly, it's different. I mean, this action will be more swift and immediate than a tax lien sale process would be.
Yeah.
People can hold those liens for a very long time.
So it's certainly my view that it's a logical step to take.
Yep.
And
Yes.
in fact, resolution number 28, first of our resolutions, is to take action on that front. Any further comment? Motion to close the public hearing? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. Now the resolutions, number 28, on this very subject.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves a local law amending Chapter 166 Taxation, Section 166-28, continuation of collection of property taxes as follows. To delete Chapter 166 Taxes, Article 7 Tax Lien Sales, continuation of collection of property taxes. The collection of property taxes shall continue to be enforced pursuant to Title III of Article 14 of the Real Property Tax Law as in effect on December 31st, 1994.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Number 29.
Resolved that the pre-check register dated February 11th, covering check numbers 74522 through 74660, has been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed below. The general fund, $201,567.02. Special purpose Special purpose fund, $400. Water fund, $102,254.27. Capital fund, $771. Refuge fund, $31,987.95. Pool fund, $2,114.81. Trust and agency fund, $3,420 to total $342,515.05.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions?
I had one which you answered for me in...
19,000.
Yeah.
While you're looking, Patty, I see we're paying for the new Bobcat loader.
Paying for the, yeah,
Do
boy,
we
did
have it?
we get that in time.
When do we
didn't
get it?
We had.
About
We
a
have
week
it?
and a half ago. It
It's
was
here?
out all week. Oh,
Great.
yeah, it was out all weekend.
Yeah, I saw
Really?
that.
It came
this
right,
weekend.
Thank
it's just in time.
Yes,
Saw it,
thank
Clark Street.
thank you.
Did you
All
find
right,
it?
yeah,
Nothing?
yeah, nothing.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Number 30.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has hereby reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, January 28, 2013, and they're hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or corrections? Judy, paragraph before oral communications, fourth line up, the law is fix Gun Checks Act, not fixed.
I'm sorry, it's...
FIX, not
Oh,
FIXED.
okay, great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Number 31. Colleen.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from the Pleasantville Day Committee to use Memorial Plaza for the annual Pleasantville Day celebrations on Saturday, May 18, 2013, from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., and further resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the police chief to post no parking signs from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, May 18, 2013, and to tow all vehicles in violation of this temporary parking restriction.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we're filling up your dance card here. Saturday, May 18 is Pleasantville Day. Friday, May 31 is the fire department parade. Saturday, July 13 is the music festival. So,
I realize the music festival is going to be 7/13/13.
all right,
I don't
all
know
in
if that
favor
means anything.
of resolution
Aye.
number 31 for Pleasantville Day?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Mindy.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the following donations. Pony Express, $100 towards recreation activities. There are 5 anonymous donations for senior citizen programs, $50, $25, $25, $25, $100. The following are contributions for the dreidel. Amy Marlowe, $30. Andrew and Allison Layden, $60. James and Jennifer Ween, $60. Amanda and Daniel Cashman, $30. Jacqueline and Robert Stone, $30. Jonathan Lieb, $30. Andrew and Mara Cohen, $30. David and Helene Dahan, $30. Ross and Camille Gallen. These are all $30 unless I say something differently. Ross and Camille Gallen, Michael and Wendy Gonzaga, Benjamin and Jennifer Pergament, Robert and Linda Natalie, Michael Turchin, Barry and Jennifer Toba, Jonathan and Elise Glass, Peter and Sarah Rogovin, Elise Sarabin, Andrew and Whitney Goodman, Frank and Gaynell Farina, and Allison Langer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you to all of these people. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Jonathan, 53.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments. We're increasing the revenue budget code, aid, home, and community service by $9,706. And we're also increasing the budget, expense budget code for refuse recycling by the same amount. And to transfer funds for snow equipment purchases and recycling bins, $17,000 is coming from snow overtime to snow equipment, $5,411 from snow, sand, and salt to snow equipment, and $7,215 from contingency to sanitation and recycling bins. Total transfers equal $29,626.
Is there a second?
Second.
So in,
This is paying for the Bobcat that you mentioned,
Right.
Mr. Mayor, and also our half of the recycling bin costs.
and we are able to pay for the Bobcat at the moment out of our overtime
Yes.
budget. God willing, the rest of the season, right?
We're okay.
This was drawn up Friday.
It was.
How are we looking now?
It was actually drawn up a week
Do you know,
ago.
I want to tell you that my brother out on Long Island lives in an incorporated village, and at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, he saw his first plow. They had 3 feet of snow in front of his house. They did not plow him once from Friday to Sunday.
The
Not
timing,
once.
the timing was off in Suffolk County. They really,
Off.
They really,
If somebody had a heart attack on that block,
they didn't time the storm well
I
at
don't-
all.
Plows were leaving from Albany today to go to
The Long Island
in an
Expressway
incorporated
didn't get
village, he didn't even
No,
know. I
they
said,
didn't.
"Your village
Did he
government?"
even know
He
the
was like,
storm
"I
was
don't
coming?"
know."
There's something went very wrong.
Technology still closed.
Oh, is that right?
But I know you're very impressed with the effort here.
Oh, my goodness.
I know you're very impressed with the
And,
effort.
you know, that's
Thank
what I
you.
was telling my poor brother on the phone. I said, you know, one of the things that our, you know, superintendent tells us is that they do a continuous loop because you can't let it build up.
Can't stop.
Otherwise, you're going to have a situation
That
like
is
they had on
correct.
the Long Island Expressway where you can't move 3 feet of snow.
That's correct.
You
They
have
got
to bring
caught
in
with it.
backhoes.
That is exactly what went wrong. They
Right.
didn't have, they didn't time it well enough. They didn't have the right resources in place. And,
But
I
good
mean,
food
I
here
was
did
here
a
Saturday
fantastic
morning. I
job.
saw the mayor walking on the street. He just came from the diner with his daughter. I just got my hair done because it was such a nice
You
day.
just don't miss that diner, do you? No matter what.
We're all out
right?
doing
You're like the Postal
business here.
Service.
Shop local.
Yeah, no, it was nice. I mean, I was around
Yeah.
town without a problem 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. That's great.
Yep.
All right, Judy, you'll remind me that I don't think we voted yet on that, did we?
No.
No,
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
spend the money.
Resolved.
Number 34.
That the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign an agreement with Emergency Communications Network, 9 Sunshine Boulevard, Ormond Beach, Florida, wish we were all there, for a code red notification system as per the terms set forth in their agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
We've been through the discussion that many communities have been through after the experience we had with Sandy about the ways in which we can communicate with all of you, especially when some of our normal means of communication are disrupted. And we have settled on this system called Code Red, which happens to be the same system that the town of Newcastle uses, as well as the city of White Plains, and it will allow us to contact you via telephone, via email, or via text. And we will begin with a database that Code Red assembles from the 911 database, but there will also be an online portal where we will encourage all of you to go in and edit your preferences so that we hopefully will both have your landline, your cell phone, and your email, and an indication of what your preferences are. It is not our intention to use this for other than emergency purposes at the moment, although there are other capabilities of the system, and as we get into this, we may have discussion about how to use it. We also have a sign-up of regular village news that you can sign up for at our website now, pleasantville-ny.gov, And at least as of the moment, we intend to use that, continue to use that for meeting agendas and general notices, reminders about water bills and tax bills and that sort of stuff. So what this Code Red network will give us is a much better means of reaching all of you in an emergency situation, especially the sort of situation we encountered with Sandy. It's worth noting that a lot of you, myself included, may have gotten calls during the snowstorm from the Mount Pleasant system. I actually got 6 such calls, and I saw today in the patch that a number of residents in Newcastle accidentally got calls from the Mount Pleasant system as well. So that's going to take a little sorting out on their end and on all of our ends, and we'll all work collaboratively to do that to make sure that each of us has a system that reaches all of you. It's also worth noting that the system is available for people who may want to look after someone who lives in the village, perhaps a child or relative who lives elsewhere but wants to be aware of emergency conditions in Pleasantville. They can also sign up and receive notifications, so you can hypothetically, live in Florida and check on, be aware of the status if you have someone who might need assistance in Pleasantville. So we had a web meeting with the Code Red people last week, and we're very much impressed by their system, and also very much impressed by the process they go through to scrub the database and develop the best possible network. It also presents us a series of options for communicating within the village staff and other specific groups, and it gives us the chance down the line, if we avail ourselves of it, to identify specific neighborhoods, for example, that might be subject to flooding, who could be pulled out and receive specific notifications. So, anything to add to that? We are signing up for a 5-year contract.
5-year, 3-year minimum, 2-year auto renew, provided there is budgetary appropriations.
Right. And that costs us about $4,500 a year.
That's about right.
So we've
Under
looked at a
that.
bunch of different products and feel comfortable that this is a good one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Number 35.
This is the notice of intent to have the Village of Pleasantville, this board, be the lead agency as far as the SECRA for the benchmark presentation submission. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby intends to act as the lead agency for carrying out the State Environmental Quality Review Act process relative to a proposal by Benchmark Senior Living, Inc. To develop a 4-acre portion of the rear of the Pleasantville Methodist Church site at 70 Bedford Road in the Village of Pleasantville.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Jonathan, number 36.
Whereas Benchmark Senior Living, Inc. has filed an application with the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville in order to develop an approximately 4-acre portion of the rear of the Pleasantville Methodist Church site located at 70 Bedford Road with a 4-story, 87-unit assisted living facility, and whereas the proposed action is subject to the requirements of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville proposes to act as lead agency for the benchmark proposal, and whereas the benchmark proposal will require both site plan and subdivision approval from the Planning Commission, and will also require a recommendation from the Planning Commission to the Village Board of Trustees in regard to the request by Benchmark to amend the Village Zoning Code to create a new floating zone entitled the Elder Care Community District, or ECC, and therefore impose the new floating zone on a portion of the Pleasantville Methodist Church site. Therefore, it is resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby refers to the Planning Board for their initial review and comment to the Village Board of Trustees notice of intent to serve as lead agency, as well as the zoning petition of Benchmark Senior Living, Inc., as well as other related documents, all for the report and recommendation of the Village Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Joel, have we fulfilled the tasks we had to fulfill?
I have.
Okay. And we have? We did what we needed to do?
Or the benchmark, yes.
Okay. All right. That's the last of our resolutions. Anyone have any new business, comments of another kind?
Nope.
All right. We appreciate all of your attention. We're back 2 weeks from today. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night. See you on Monday, February 25, if we don't see you on the 19th at the tax briefing tonight.